This presentation demonstrates completing a graded packet tracer activity. Upon first opening this packet tracer activity, we see the instructor has enabled the user profile property, and we need to enter in our user profile information. Whatever the instructor has instructed you to do goes here. No network description. And what do? Well, if we notice down at the bottom, we will notice that we have two packet tracer windows open, a packet tracer activity window, as well as the actual packet tracer. Now I will reduce the size of these to make it a little bit easier for recording. Here are our instructions. There we go. We see that our primary task is to connect the east branch. Provides detailed instructions. Let's proceed. First thing it says is add an HWIC2 card to the east router. We have to power it off first. Power it up. Close it. We need to cable a serial cable between S1 from headquarters to S1 from east. I go to my connecting tool, choose auto connect, and I see that is locked in this particular activity. So I will need to use the correct, there it is, the correct cable, which is the serial DCE from headquarters serial 1 to east serial 1. The appropriate cable from the switch to the east router gig 02, that's going to be a straight through Ethernet cable. There we go. And so it was from gig 1 to gig 2 on east. Notice in our activity window it's showing us completion rates. Then it says a console cable. Well, the blue is the console. We'll go from the RS-232 to the console. And an appropriate network cable from PC1 to Fast Ethernet 1 on the switch. There we go. Now, time to configure. We go to East to configure. The shortcut tab, config, is not available because that was locked in this activity. Command line interface we will need to use. And what it's asking us to do is do some IP addressing on the interfaces we just connected. It's telling me to use the second address on the /30 network connecting headquarters and east. It also tells me to activate interfaces as needed in the instructions. Interface G0/2. Save myself some typing. Here is the first address in this subnet, which is the .64/26 subnet. Also a no shutdown. It tells me to save the config. We're moving right along, 60%. Next we need to configure the east switch. Tells me to use a host name, an address to the switch virtual interface, and the appropriate default gateway address. I go to the switch. Config tab is locked. The command line tab is locked. Well, how do I configure something that has the command line locked? It's actually quite simple. I go to the PC, go to the desktop in the PC, choose the terminal program, and now I'm connected to the switch thanks to the cabling. Enable, config T, host name east switch. Now, packet tracer activity grading is very specific. It's case sensitive, spelling sensitive. There is no such thing as close enough. And let's see, it asks for the appropriate default gateway, which is going to be the address we just assigned to the gigabit interface. I already looked ahead. Interface VLAN 1 is the only VLAN on this switch, and it's the management VLAN, and we put in the IP address 192.168. Now it tells me to use the last address, the last usable address. So that will be 7.126 on the 255.192 network. Better do a no shutter on that to bring it up. Control Z. 80% success. We go to the PC now. In fact, let me scroll up. There we go. We go to the PC. Assign the address, which is the second usable address. .192.168.7, and the gateway, of course, is our router. And it tells me to ping from the remote router. Well, let's see if we can do that. We come over to the remote branch. We find the laptop. Notice we go into the cluster. We go to the desktop of the laptop, go to the command prompt, ping 192.168.7. Let's see, 66 was the one we just put in. We may have a couple ARP resolutions along the way, but hopefully we'll have connectivity. And there we go. Let's check our completion. It's saying 95%, so I wonder what I missed. Well, we can go to check results, and if the instructor hasn't blocked it, we can look at assessment items and see that I forgot to save the startup config on the switch. So, remember how we configured the switch? I need to navigate back to my main workspace, go to the terminal, okay, and copy, run, start. Go back to my activity. It tells me I've completed it. Thank you for taking the time to view this video.